Hello, I'm Dr. Deborah Sword. These short podcasts are based on the book I'm writing called Conflict Owner's Manual. I'm here with my co-host and friend, Tyson Bankert.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tyson. I'm an artist and community facilitator.
I want to talk about dialogue spelled with a capital D. Unlike
Mm,
dialogue, which is just people chatting, there's a kind of conflict competence known as dialogue, which is a specific conflict management process. So I worked with a team that had been in conflict for years, but they were reluctant to hire a mediator or discuss their issues. They were too embedded in blaming and their anger. So I suggested that we have a dialogue instead of having a goal to get to a resolution. They were skeptical, but they agreed to try. At the session end, they were disappointed that dialogue was just talk when they thought they needed magic. So 4 days later, I phoned the team leader to check in, and the team leader reported with surprise that the team had its calmest week in years.
interesting, right? I mean, talking is good for us. But it is interesting that they resisted talking at first without sort of an agreement of what was the planned outcome. But yet the workplace became more peaceful. And something was able to change in less than a week. And wonder what that was, right? They listened to each other during that dialogue, and now they could relate to each other better. They become more conflict confident.
Yes. So it's reasonable that they all wanted the conflict to end. I mean, that we do have
Right.
conflict fatigue, and they'd lived with their conflict story for so long that their feelings and their disagreements were like well-worn ruts in the road. It was hard to get their wheels out of the ruts. But instead of a mediation where they were there focused on getting a resolution when all of them just wanted to blame each other, with a dialogue, the process was about their values rather than small d dialogue, which is talk, because all that did was allow them to keep expressing their complaints about each other.
Mm. So what I hear from you, Deborah, is that the capital D in process is dialogue. Process dialogue is the method for giving a structure to talking. Small d, so dialogue is like what we say in the conversation.
Sure, you and I are having a dialogue right now,
Right.
small d dialogue. But in the dialogue, the process with a capital D, we're talking about values, beliefs, worldviews, mental models. So
Mm.
it's not, dialogue isn't structured the way mediation is. It isn't about having an issues list, coming up with an agenda,
Right.
getting to interests, having a staged model, and the proposed outcome is to have a settlement. Dialogue has an introduction and an initial question. In this case, it was what's important to you about working together collaboratively. And then, as the dialogue facilitator, I'm mostly silent. When the group tries to problem solve or to blame or go back to tasks or to discuss specific grievances and disagreements, I just gently bring them back to discussing their values, what they stand for, and what they.
Mm.
There's no proposed outcome except to talk.
Right. I think so many folks are maybe really more comfortable with the mediation style of getting at terms of agreement, getting a resolution. It can feel a lot more satisfying and feel like there's maybe a false sense of closure in some ways. But a process dialogue, I think, is although it maybe sounds like very unpopular, are not well used. Um, it makes sense at a human level because you're really getting down to those values that you mentioned, and actually hopefully being able to the two people understand each other better, or groups of people understand each other, and so you're almost creating that terms of agreement um, more organically, more naturally than something that's being forced upon.
That's right. And you're doing it without the pressure of having to come up with signed terms of agreement to show that you've accomplished something.
Hmm.
Just talking isn't considered an accomplishment. which is kind of strange because getting to know each other is part of our humanity. So process dialogue isn't common and few people use it because at a human level, getting that immediate rush of coming to a resolution is immediately satisfying. Getting to know each other is more long term. And dialogue means letting go. Dialogue as a process, there's no control, there's no agendas, no judgments, no problem solving. So it's thing we have a very efficiency orientation. We want to accomplish something, and dialogue just unfolds in real time. And when it does, it's a wonderful experience and one that we don't have very often.
One of some of my favorite characters in movies are the ones who, in conflict, they want to bring kind of peace. They want to their value or their character card archetype is that person who is able to have be rational and practical. Usually at the detriment to the hero or the villain, but they're usually that core person of stability. And it reminds me of the movie 12 Angry Men, where I think it's juror number 8, Henry Fonda. He's the only one of the 12 jurors who questions the interpretation of the evidence when the others want to quickly find the accused guilty. It's let's sit with what's going on and actually have a conversation, have a dialogue.
Juror number 8 in 12 Angry Men is an interesting case study. You talk about the character who provides sage advice, and that's Merlin or Gandalf. But they provide specific advice and guidance. What Henry Fonda did as juror number 8 was really special. And the movie is often incorrectly summarized. They say one juror slowly convinces the other 11 jurors that the accused may not be guilty. But that's not actually what Henry Fonda does. As juror number 8, he doesn't convince anyone of anything, but we're
Mm,
so unfamiliar with dialogue as a process that we see argument and persuasion and convincing when it isn't there. But in true dialogue form, over the course of the movie 12 Angry Men, all juror number 8 does is listen, ask questions, and listen some more. He does not try to convince anything of anyone. He just asks them about their values and what's important to them and what they are certain of.
right. He never really gives his opinion. He just asks if they're certain. Asking people like, why do you believe this? What makes you feel this way? I think those are really important questions. And he inquires if the evidence guides them to where they want to go, or if they're making evidence fit where they already are. And I think just being that person in the room is someone who is confident, competent.
Yeah, exactly. That was dialogue and it was brilliant. And the clients, the team I'd been working with, once they had
Mm,
an experience with dialogue, they had more understanding. Their conflict didn't burn as hot for them anymore because they had developed a connection with the other members of the team, even the ones they were mad at. And without the conflict being burning hot, they had a calmer week.
And that's without like a resolution yet, or now they can maybe even come to a more defined resolution. Maybe that can come next. Well, we will be back next every week, so please join us again and tell your friends as we are discussing how to do conflict better, because you never know when you might be called upon to be conflict competent.
Right. We need to own our conflicts, and the Conflict Owners Manual will show you how. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll subscribe to our podcast.